Hello, my beautiful gemstones. Welcome to Tuesday's afternoon talk with myself and Ghostdragonzw. And today we have a really special guest. I'm going to wait for a few people to come in before I bring them on, but I am super duper excited because I've been trying to get guests on here for a while, and this worked out perfectly. Thanks to Ghostdragonzw out there hunting for guests for me because I'm too introverted and shy to actually talk to people. We're going to have a really great show. We have Ryan Paul Tremblay, the Wendigo guy, as he's called, and for good reason. I don't know that I've met somebody who knows as much just through Facebook posts and conversations that we've had in the past in comments and things like that. It's really cool because I'm so into the spiritual part of all of this, right? The dimensions, what realms do these things come from? Why are they here? What are their purpose? I've heard that I believe it's skinwalkers are like cursed creatures. And through all my research from my contracts, my ghostwriting, I've come across some interesting encounters. So it's going to be really cool to have someone here who has his own experiences and who's really, really knowledgeable about the subject. Probably can answer most questions, and I'm just really excited. I know Ghost Dragons is excited, so we'll probably hear a lot more from him today. And I'm going to bring them in, and we're just going to start the conversation, and hopefully y'all will do what you normally do and start showing up at around 1:15. So, okay, let's bring in the Ghost Dragons and then our special guest.
Peace out. Man, I'm jerky. What did I get all jerky for again?
Because you were flexing about my Facebook page. So we have Bat Mom so far, but I know more people will come in. So let's just bring in Ryan and start talking.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get rid of you.
Come on, everybody. How you guys doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm really excited. Like I said, like 40 times already. And yeah, I want guests on this show so bad, but I have a hard time like approaching people and asking, because I feel like, my channel should be bigger, but it's getting there, and this is really exciting. So we've got Bat Mom, we got Blue Crossroads. I knew Blue Crossroads was the one that was in the back that hadn't said I'm here yet, because I knew he was going to be here for me. Mark Hall said, "What is up, sweetheart?" So do you want to just, Ryan, start telling us about how did you get into this, and a little bit about like your journey from when you first found an interest in this? Did something happen, or how did it come up, and where your journey's kind of led you to and where you're at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, growing up, I was a monster kid, Universal monsters, the Hammer monsters, daily thing for me. I'd get home from school. I wouldn't watch cartoons really. I watch a monster movie. Of course, a huge Godzilla fan, as Ghost knows. I'm a huge Godzilla fan. And my dad was he was Cajun and Creole. So growing up, I used to hear tales of the Rougarou. Every time we went outside and we had a campfire or something, he'd be like, "Oh, be careful, Rougarou's gonna get you now." And as a kid, I was kind of like, whatever, Dad, Rougarou's not real, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'd blow him off. And as I got older, though, he started talking to me seriously about the Rougarou, telling me what it was. And then he showed me the Patterson-Gimlin film. And that was like, oh, a kid that loved monsters, you see that monsters are in the real world, and you're just like, you're jumping for excitement. You're like, yes, so Bigfoot was my gateway. Okay. So I believed in Bigfoot. I started researching Jersey Devil, Chupacabra, and then I started hearing about Dogman. And of course, at first I'm like, yeah, Dogman's not real. Yeah, whatever. Well, 2 years ago,
yeah, I felt that
I had my
too.
own Dogman encounter. Yeah, I had my own Dogman encounter. So after my experience, I was like, oh, okay, Dogman's real. So I started researching Dogman, and I ended up going into Skinwalkers and then into Wendigo. And it's just opened a whole new world to me. And like, I didn't believe in skinwalkers either. I thought they were just folklore. Right. But as I started talking about them, I started speaking to Navajo and Dene people, and they were telling me, "Oh no, Ryan, they're real." So they started showing me things, and to this day, I'm like, yeah, skinwalkers are definitely a thing. I'm not messing with them, though. So here I am currently.
That's so awesome. Where are you from? If you don't want to give like the exact location, you give area.
Well, I grew up in Massachusetts.
Okay.
I grew up in Massachusetts, but now I actually live in Arizona. So Arizona is Skinwalker territory.
Skinwalker Central, yes.
Yeah, so whenever I hear weird noises outside, I'm like, oh, Skinwalker.
even here in Jersey, I don't think so much of the Jersey Devil because I'm in northern New Jersey. Jersey Devil is central or south, depending on who you ask. I think of the same types of things. I think Skinwalker. I watched a video. It was an episode of like These Woods Are Haunted or something where the guy, he was so funny. He was cursing. He's like, I'm looking at an effing werewolf, and it made me interested because at the end he said he realized that what he had been attacked by and accosted by was, he called it a loot guru because he was from Louisiana. And I think they say it differently.
Right.
But my mom and I actually have an inside joke because she had such a hard time saying Rougarou. It took like 45 minutes before I understood what she was talking about because she's like, the Rugi, the Rogaro. And I'm just like, I don't know what you're saying. Why don't you tell us? I have questions. I know Ghost Dragons has questions. I know the chat's going to have questions. But right off the bat, why don't you tell us about your dogman encounter?
Okay.
I've never met anyone who's actually encountered one.
All right. Well, a friend of mine, he and his wife were going on vacation and they asked me to watch the house for them. So, I'm trying to be that good friend and I agreed. And what I would do is I had kind of a schedule. I'd go morning, afternoon, and then midnight would be my last check-in for the day. Okay. So on this particular day, it was midnight. I was going for my last check. Really dark. There was no full moon or anything like that. But as I'm walking up to his house, the coyotes are going nuts. Like they sound nervous. They don't sound like they're hunting. They sound legit scared.
Right.
So I kind of dismissed it because in Arizona, you hear it all the time. You kind of go, it's coyotes, whatever. But as I'm getting near the side of his house, I kind of smell something really rancid. It smelled like feces, body sweat, and urine all mixed together. That's the only way to describe it.
Signs.
Yummy.
Yeah. So, here I am, though. I'm thinking, oh, well, it's a dead carcass somewhere. It's a dead animal. Or maybe it's like from the homeless camp because we have like riverbeds. And in the riverbeds here in Arizona, there's homeless camps. And they're infamous for, kind of sneaking up to your property during the night. So I just thought maybe it was something like that. But as I'm getting closer and closer to the back where it's getting darker, I kind of feel a little weird. Like I'm not alone here. So I'm thinking maybe somebody's trying to prank me or whatever. And I hear this really deep growl. I mean, deep. And I just kind of stop for a minute. And I'm like, is that a mountain lion or is that a bear? Okay. And in Arizona, we don't have bears. Okay. So I'm, common sense is thinking, okay, more mountain lions. So I hear it again. And me only being 5'10" and a half, I try to puff up like that little puffer fish. I got the Sylvester Stallone chest going on. I got my arms out and I'm like, hey, and it goes quiet for a minute. So I hear nothing. And then after maybe like 30 seconds, 40 seconds, the growl comes again, but it's louder this time. And I can feel it in my chest, so I'm not going to back down.
When you
I'm going to be a tough guy. I'm going to be the tough guy. So I puff up again, and I'm like flexing. I'm all, hey, and this time, it's a really vicious growl. Like it's a deep, resonating growl. And so I'm just kind of like, okay, there's something back here. I get to see what it is. I promise I take care of my friend's property. So I walk back. It's pitch black. Okay. You can't see much, but I see something in the shadows moving. How when you look at shadows, you can see somebody moving inside those shadows?
Yeah, you can definitely tell. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I see that and I think it's a homeless guy. So, I try to tell him, hey, you're not supposed to be here. And I puff up again. And I yell, hey, again. And the lights kick on. And when the lights kick on, I see two amber eyes glowing, looking right at me. So I just freeze. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not sure what this is. But as my brain kicks in, I realize I'm looking at a hyena-like creature. It looks just like a hyena. And it's staring right at me. And I'm looking at it. And I'm going, okay, what is this? I'm not moving because I'm so petrified from what I'm seeing.
On its hind legs?
No, it was on all fours at this point.
Okay.
So, but it had its arms like kind of stretched out in front of it, and it was kind of arched up. And it's looking at me. I'm looking at it. Its head's tilting side to side. I can see the ears going up and down. So I just kind of root in place. I don't want to move. It stands up on two legs, and you hear the loud pop as it stands up, and it grabs a branch. It's just kind of like hanging there looking at me. And we don't do anything for a few moments. This thing charges forward towards me, and it just stops on a dime. Like it just stops like, oh, you're not moving. So we're staring at each other, and I'm not going to move. Okay. Cause when you run from a predator, you become prey.
Oh, for sure.
So
yeah.
We spent a good amount of time staring at each other, and finally it turns around and it starts to walk away. And as it's walking away, it kind of looks over its shoulder at me. And once it's out of sight, that's it. That's when I run up the stairs. I run through the doors. I'm locking his doors. I'm slamming his windows. I'm going through
Oh
his
my
kitchen drawers trying
gosh.
to grab a knife. Yeah, and I call my friend and I tell him, "Hey, there's a hyena in your backyard." You know, and he's like, "A hyena? Ryan, we're in Arizona."
Right.
And I told him, no, bro. I saw a hyena that stood up on 2 legs.
So it still
He didn't
didn't
want to believe me.
register at that point. When did you
No,
realize
so
what you had actually seen?
the next morning when he came home, we went out into the backyard. You could see the branch where this thing was grabbing the branch, and you could see the claw marks in the ground. And so, let me get a drink here. So we could see the claw marks in the ground, and I asked him, have you heard of anything like this? And so he's like, well, have you ever heard of Linda Godfrey? And I was like, well, yeah, I have. And he told me, look into some of her books. She talks about hyena-like things. So yeah, I read her books, and there you go, the hyena-like dog man.
Wow. Blue
Mhm.
Cross
That
wants to know.
Harley Quinn was probably robbing the neighbor next door.
Blue Crossroads wants to know if Gray and black markings. Did it have gray and black markings that you noticed, or?
Yes, it had the rosettes on the shoulders right here and going down its chest.
So before I let Ghost Dragons ask you, I'm sure he's like bursting with questions. So I'm trying to get mine all out, and we'll probably get into this, but I'm dying to know the difference between a werewolf, a dog man, and a skinwalker, the Wendigo. Like, I know there are differences between the 4 of them. I'm sure there are many, but what are like the main, like, how would I know? I know that there's stuff back there. I accidentally channeled a Bigfoot. I live in the middle of the woods. I know there's stuff out there. So, yeah. Lucky me, except I'm terrified of them. Like, how would I know the difference of what I was looking at if I was out there?
I'm trying to think how I can put this in simpler terms. With a dogman and werewolf, I'd say the only way you'd know the difference is if you saw the werewolf change from human to animal. If you don't see it, I don't think you're going to know the difference.
Is Dogman see, that's where I get confused with werewolf and Dogman, because is Dogman supposed to be a transforming human as well? Or is it a cursed human, or is it not human at all, just humanoid?
It's humanoid. It's not human at all. It's like people theorize that they're a species of bipedal canines.
Because it says dog man, so my brain thinks man.
Well, I think we call them that because they walk upright like we do.
Like a man.
We have a really bad habit of, like, for instance, the goat man or the frog man or the lizard man or the moth man. I could go on forever with the man. So.
You're right.
But with skinwalkers, though, the only way you'd really, really know is A, if you captured it and it turns back into its human form, or
that's not happening.
B, looking at the eyes. Because the eyes, even in the animal form, have a very eerie human shape. So they don't look like animal eyes. They look like human eyes in the animal form.
On the werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
Blue Crossroads said, by the way, a hyena actually has a high-pitched, quick bark. Almost sounds like laughter, so you can rule out hyena, which I'm sure you already have. Ghost Dragons, take it over. Go ahead, Ryan.
Go ahead. Finish. I don't want you to finish.
Oh, I'm well aware of that. I volunteered at a zoo for 3 years, and I worked with hyenas, so.
Yeah, I'm not the animal woodsy person. Like, for me, I say it all the time, like, if you want to have pets, that's awesome. But if it poops and pees in my house, it needs to wipe itself or go. So I'm not even like a pet person. So, I mean, I like animals and I think they're cute and everything. But my fear comes, like, I learned very quickly from living here, moving from like the inner city where I can walk to the gas station to buy 1 cigarette at 2 a.m. to living here where there's no sidewalks, no public transportation. It was a lot. And I learned about the not running and making yourself as big as possible, because the bears just come into the yard and like throw my son's pool around and bite the grill.
Oh, wow.
They're swimming in the swimming pool. They're swinging on the swings. They beach the beach ball, playing pop. They're all over around here.
Wow.
And I
That's
did learn
I'm a little jealous.
It is cool. It's so cool to watch. But it is scary because I'm like, sometimes I may have to go out there at night, but I did learn to really make yourself big. A mama bear and 5 cubs, black bears, were on my porch one day because I was going to a barbecue and I had corn and I put it
Uh-oh.
down, and I was getting my son. I left the corn on the porch. So the next day I come out, the cub is right up to the door. Like if I had, I wouldn't be able to open the door. The cub was there, but I knew the mama was around too. But I did get video of it. And then the 370-pound daddy bears there that night go digging through the recycling because I had one cardboard from a frozen pizza that I accidentally threw in there. It's bad here. I'm telling you, North Jersey.
You got to be careful with that.
No joke. So we've been like more careful about like where we put our recycling and what time we're outside and teaching our 5-year-old, like, not all animals are for petting and things like that. So everybody who came in, I just want to thank y'all for coming in. I've been trying to keep up in the chat. GhostDragonsEW, go ahead. Why don't you take over?
Let's do this.
Here we go.
Well, first of all, let's talk about the mix-up about skinwalkers.
Okay.
A lot of people seem to think that they're scattered all over the world. I'm sure there's versions of them, but let's talk about the main place, the main storyline, the lore, where it comes from, and the mountains that it comes from.
Okay, so the main skinwalker lore is the Yinaralushi. That's what it's from in the Navajo language. I'm not
going to even say it. I'm not even going to attempt to say it.
Oh, you can do it. You can do it. I'll teach you how to say it. Come on, it's Yinaralushi. It's very easy.
Yinaralushi.
So, all right, there you go. And what that translates to in our language, in English, is by means of it, on all fours he goes. And the reason why they give it that name is because when a skinwalker, Yinaralushi, dons a pelt, he doesn't become a bipedal version of the animal. He becomes the actual animal itself. So say he's wearing a coyote pelt, okay? He's going to turn into that coyote, but he's not going to become a bipedal werewolf-like coyote. He's going to become a coyote. But the difference is he'll still have his human-like intelligence. So he'll know what he's doing. He'll have his cunning. He'll have his wits about him, but he will look exactly like that animal. So out in the desert where the Navajo Dene used to live, you won't be able to tell him apart from one coyote to another. He'll blend right in like that. And they're very serious. Like the Navajo don't want people just talking about them lightly or taking them as a joke. It's very offensive to them. And they're very serious in the sense that yeah, and what they mean by that is when you don't say skinwalker. Like there's a guy out there, I don't know if you've seen him, Ghost. He's trying to prove that skinwalkers don't exist. And he goes out there and he says skinwalker 3 times. He's out there, skinwalker. That was never a part right?
Yeah. He thought he was Beetlejuice or something. Yeah.
Yeah, right. You got a Yinaralushi sitting there somewhere. He's gonna be dusting himself off and go, "It's showtime." I mean, come on. He's not Beetlejuice, but no, they never said you can't say skinwalker because in their language, it's not skinwalker. Yinaralushi, like I said, translates to by means of it on all fours he goes. So skinwalker isn't even part of their language really. It's a white man term, but they mean talk about them respectfully. Like if you're going to talk about them out in the desert, don't talk about them like calling them chumps or jokes or saying, "Hey, you don't exist," because that's when the Yinaralushi goes, "Oh, I don't exist, huh? I'm going to go to your house now." So you don't mess with them in that sense. But they're shaman. What they are is they're shaman that, they learn the religious practices of the Navajo. They learn all the sacred chants, the medicine, all that good stuff, but they go to the dark side. Okay. The best way to compare these guys is Jedi and Sith. Okay. You got the good shaman that are the Jedi. Then you got the Yinaralushi that are the Sith. So they learn all the dark stuff. And when they decide they want to become Yinaralushi, they have to find that certain sect of shamans that practice this. And that sect of shamans will have them kill somebody very close to them, a mother, a father, a wife, and even a child. And once they commit that murder, they'll take them to a special cave and they'll spend days, even weeks, going through some very, very dark practices to fully become a Yinaralushi.
Right. Yeah, that I did know that it is.
I didn't know that. That sounds like coven magic.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that sounds a little bit similar to coven magic. I know with witches, there's no black magic and white magic. I really don't like those terms, but for lack of better terms, when you go too deep into the black, that's the becoming of the familiar, the crow, the cat, the mouse, whatever, owl, whatever it is. So that's a very similar legend. I know for a fact the coven magic stuff, the magic with a K, is true. And I believe 100% in what you just said. I try to explain to people that it's not like a transformation where you see on TV with some dude and his back's breaking and cracking and he's ripping out of his clothes. And then all of a sudden the next day, those bones aren't broken anymore and he's just chilling.
Yeah.
That's not the transformation we're talking about. That's not the
Right.
way it happens. It's different. It's not, it's a physical change, but it doesn't at the end of the day affect the physical body after. Like, does that make sense?
Metaphysical. Yeah, it's metaphysical where maybe it's like, it's their spirit that enters an animal or whatever. I mean, we've never seen them turn into an animal. So maybe it's their soul or their spirit or their energies that go into an animal. I mean, we don't know.
Right.
We're not there.
He spoke to a medicine tribal elder. They're not allowed to say the word, meaning Native Americans, I guess, in some places.
This is true.
And she said they give their soul to become one, which I I believe that, because that's probably the metaphysical. Yep.
Yeah, that's why they kill their family member, because when you kill a family member, that's the ultimate sacrifice. So you're giving this sacrifice to the dark arts, to the dark magic. So that is essentially kind of our version of giving the soul,
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. You're sacrificing a person. People have souls. I'm a medium. I see spirit, souls, devils, demons, shadow, everything all the time. Not so much cryptids, except for the Bigfoot I accidentally channeled. But it's crazy because it was so I was lost in the woods crying with my phone dead, and it was raining and it was dark out, and it came to me and it led me home, and it was the craziest thing. Nice. But I'm noticing now it's really cool because there are a lot of similarities between witches and mediums and the things that I talk about on my channel that are kind of the same as what you're talking about. It's all about the metaphysical, the spirit, and kind of the realm beyond us that only some of us can connect with unless we do those types of things. The ultimate sacrifice,
it's all connected.
It's all connected.
Has to be ETs. I found so many connections between just ETs and the Fae and ETs and Bigfoot that I firmly believe, because they're all working with the same magic, so to speak.
Yeah.
They're all working with the metaphysical, the spirit, the soul. It's just called something different. It's just practiced in a different way.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. And there's different results
to the same. Yeah.
Different results.
It all leads pretty much.
But to carry on the skinwalkers, though, with them, though, it's a very scary thing for the Dene people. They don't even like to talk about them, and they believe that once the skinwalker has its eyes set on you, you basically can't really get away from it unless you know the right chants and incantations to do against it.
It's magic against magic.
Right. And interestingly enough, the best way to stop a skinwalker is to learn his or her real name. If you know their real name, you take away all their power.
That's like the demonic. It works with lower level demons where if you know their name, it's so connected. It's blowing my mind because I never
has to know the name of it, what it's fighting in order to fight.
I've never realized how closely connected all this phenomena is. That's so crazy.
Now,
when it comes look into this stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Let's talk about the location. Most of the lore is the 7 mountains. If I got that right, the 4 mountains. Why did I think 7? But the 4 mountains. That's where most of this lore of the Skinwalker came from, right?
Yeah, the 4 sacred mountains. There's a story behind that. With the Dene people, the 4 sacred mountains, they believe that their God, their creator, gave them these mountains. So they're very important. They're very sacred. This is where the Navajo would go to do their chants, their ceremonies. Like if somebody was giving birth, they would go there. If they were giving thanks for the food they hunted, they would go there. So with the Yinaradushi, they need the 4 sacred mountains. There's one in Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado. And if they don't have the 4 sacred mountains, they don't have the power to become a Yinaradushi. So if somebody says in like California, oh, I saw a skinwalker. No, you didn't. No, you didn't, because they need those 4 sacred mountains.
So I don't have to worry that they're creeping around my backyard here because
no. And I did speak to a Navajo. Oh, go ahead. What's the question?
I was just gonna say, so they can do the shift only there. So even if they had done the shift before and come back, like they can't come to Jersey and shift again. They have to be in those places to shift.
Right. Because the further away they go, the less the power is. It's kind of like, if you have, you need that power source, and the closer you are to it, the more radiant and more exuberant it is. The farther away you go, the less you can tap into it. I figured you'd get it because I know you know about the magic stuff. So
yeah, for sure. You said you spoke to a Navajo. And
actually, you know what I did? I don't recommend doing what I did, but when I went to know about the Yinalalushi, I wasn't having any luck at first. Nobody would talk to me about it. And being in Arizona, I got the wise idea. Oh, I'm going to go to a reservation and get some information. And being a Caucasian dude, it probably wasn't a smart idea. I walked on with my friend, and I thought, I was king nothing over here. So I walk on and get into a middle of a big crowd. Okay, they're all around me, and there's a lot of people. Okay, so I just I buck up and I'm like, okay, who's going to tell me about the Yinalalushi? And it was one of those moments like in the movies where you hear everything, and the crickets stop, and they all turned and looked at me, and I looked at my friend, and I was like, we are going to die. We stood there, and it was the most tense 5 minutes of my life. I'm sitting there like, are they going to beat us up, or what are they going to do? They're not saying anything. And finally, this elderly couple comes over, and they ask me in this very soft voice, why do you want to know? And so I told them, because I see YouTube videos with all this messed up information. I see all these Reddit articles that aren't true. I want to know the real story so I can relay them back to the people and teach the people about what they really are. And because I want to teach their traditions, they were very touched by that. And they took me into their home and they told me all about it.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
I love that.
I mean, I look Caucasian myself, but I'm half, my mom's half Cherokee with some, my mom's full Cherokee with a little bit of Iroquois in there. So I'm half, but I don't think I would have the nerve to do that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, don't do it. I don't recommend it.
No, I never would. I personally, I don't really leave my house, but if I did, that's what Ghostdragonzw was saying earlier. He's like, yeah, he's actually gone to like places and sniffed out the legends and the lore and all that.
Oh yeah.
We've got quite a while yet, but what would you like to say? Let Ghostdragonzw ask you another question, and then I'd like to just hear from you, like whatever you want to put out there, whatever you want to talk about. I want to give you the last like 20 minutes of the show. So go ahead, Ghost.
Okay.
Well, I was just going to switch the topic now over to, excuse me, Wendigos, because I have a picture that, see, I know this is one of his favorite subjects.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The Wendigo guy.
Yeah, a lot of people know my story of my werewolf sighting.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll maybe touch on that later, but because it was a werewolf, I knew it was werewolf. I knew it was a woman. I knew she was sad about being this, but we'll talk about that later. I'm going to show you something here, and I want to see what you think. I'm going to put it up here on the screen. Here. And let me shrink it down a bit. Okay, and present. I'm getting good at this, slowly but surely. Where did we come up?
Hey, it's the best way to do it.
Yep.
Luckily he can, because I've tried. I have no idea.
Okay, can everybody see that okay?
Yeah, it looks good. It actually looks good.
Okay.
I saw this a while back ago and kind of read the article, but they are showing here the 4 locations: north, south, east, and west. Would you buy this to be legit?
In a way, yes. In a way, yes. In a very big way, no. Because really, the most accurate depiction of a Wendigo would be the Eastern Wendigo. But what people don't seem to realize there, Ghost.
Really?
Yeah.
This one right here.
Yeah. What people don't seem to realize, though, is there is something that's very similar to what's shown in this picture here. It's called the Wachuge. Okay, a Wachuge
is that
isn't
like the one I got on the back of in our screen. Did you see the one I had on the screen?
Yeah,
it's kind of what you're talking about.
Very much like that. But but the actual Wendigo, the Wetigo, right? The name Wendigo itself, when you translate it from the Algonquin Cree Ojibwe language, it means the spirit who devours. Okay, and what brings a Wendigo on is when a man or a woman breaks a cultural taboo. Now, the most popular one, because of the internet and books, is cannibalism. But that's not the only means of becoming a Wendigo. A man or a woman can become a Wendigo by being cursed. In fact, there's a story of a man who he did something wrong to a shaman. He slighted him very badly, right? And what he did is this shaman put a curse on the man, but not upon the man himself, upon his family. His wife had just given birth not too long ago. And what he did is, the youngest daughter was house cleaning and was kind of curious because the mom hadn't woken up yet. So she went upstairs to go check on her mom, and she tried shaking her, and her mom wouldn't move. And she noticed beneath the blanket at the chest, the blanket was moving. So the daughter peeled the blanket back. The baby had become a Wendigo and was actually eating the mom's chest. So the shaman had cursed the child. Yeah.
Now, Edna made a good point right there.
Yes, I just responded to it. I said it does. And Edna said the Easter one looks like what people describe as the pale walkers or the pale crawlers. I've done several videos on them. It actually looks exactly like it, only no clothes. There's never any clothing. And normally they're on all fours. That's crazy. Go ahead.
With the Wendigo, though, it's the same thing. With the Wendigo, they'd run on all fours because when somebody gets possessed by a Wendigo, they lose their humanity, okay? Whatever was in there that was human at one point in time, it's gone after a certain while.
So
they become a complete
beast?
Yeah. They become a demon, essentially. I mean, we would call them demons.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Which, it's a possession in which the possession results in transformation.
So what is it so the Eastern one that you're saying most would look like, or that's the most accurate depiction, why is there always this idea, if you know, why is there always this idea of the, I don't want to say horns, but the antlers?
The stag-headed one, actually, I do know why that is. It's a number of reasons. One is Algernon Blackwood's book. When he wrote the book, he drew depictions where it had things stemming from the head, but they weren't antlers. Those were branches, because the Algonquins say that when that Wendigo is trying to camouflage itself, it uses forest debris. So that means leaves, mud, branches, twigs, whatever's in the forest. So it was never meant to be antlers. And another reason is because the European settlers, when they came over to Canada, they interwove Norse mythology with the Algonquin mythology of the Wendigo.
Yes. So I'm Norse.
And really, if you want to get down to a simpler reason, the horned Wendigo looks more cooler. It looks better. It looks awesome.
Yeah,
it does kind of look more. The pale crawler one, the Eastern Wendigo, to me, like that thing really does terrify me. That's why I talk about it a lot on this channel, but I never associate it with cryptid. But maybe there is some kind of connection there. Who knows? But it does look a lot cooler with the antlers.
Yeah, it does.
It does. It looks a lot cooler. It looks a lot more vicious, but ultimately, I think Eastern Wendigo is the right description right there.
Yeah, because I have seen pictures where they use branches on its head. The Eastern one is the one I've seen the most of, with and without clothes.
Okay, so you've seen pale crawlers.
I have seen it personally a number of times.
So pale crawlers.
Yeah.
Is the Wendigo? So the Wendigo.
See, I don't think it was a Wendigo ghost.
So I don't think it is either.
Well, they look very similar, but I don't know that they would be the same thing because we still don't know anything about what pale crawlers are. I just think it's very interesting that the depiction here is slightly the same, or the rake as well. But I agree. I don't think they're the same.
Here's something to think about, though. Okay, so these pale crawlers, tribes have been seeing them for centuries. They call them the Gugo. Okay. Now, what if the Cree and the Ojibwe were seeing pale crawlers and they assumed they were human at one time? Maybe the Cree and the Ojibwe and the Algonquin didn't quite have the same contact. So when they saw the pale crawlers, they assumed they were human, and that's where the Wendigo was born. Maybe there's a possible connection there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, it makes sense in my head when I try to put it together, but out loud, I'm trying to make connections. What I was going to say is, so the Wendigo is not the same where like if I were to, would it be possible for me to see one in Jersey? Like, is it the same as like needing that particular magic of the four mountains? With
it is. It is. I think. You know how some demons, they can only reside in certain areas because there's that energy they need.
Yes,
I think with the
Jersey Devil.
Wendigo, it's the same thing where it can't leave the certain area. Because if you notice, all the reports come from Canada.
Right.
And so, that makes so much sense to me, because doing what I do and being who I am, it makes more sense to me that I've never seen them, because I see literally everything. Right. Whatever it is, it will come to me. It will gravitate towards me, I guess, because my energy looks different. Spirits know I can see them and communicate. So they're immediately drawn. So the fact that I have gotten lost in these very, very deep and dense woods that surround my house, and I didn't run into anything, and it was nighttime, was very strange to me. So that actually makes a lot more sense to me, that I've never seen one. Not saying I've seen every single entity in the world, but let me tell you, I've seen my share. And the same thing with the Jersey Devil. Well, why is it only in Jersey? I don't know if I really believe the story about Mother Leeds, how the Jersey Devil came to be. But what I do believe is, I covered the Jersey Devil and I covered the Pine Barrens specifically. There is barren land there that is millions of years old, where nothing grows, and the plant life actually feeds on like fire. Like when things are lit on fire, then things will start growing. And I believe the devil is attached, the Jersey Devil, which I don't really think is an actual devil or demon. I think it feeds off the energy specifically in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, which is unlike anywhere else in the entire world. And that's probably why. What's up, Mom? Thanks for coming in. Hey, Smoochy girl.
I'm Lou, Mama.
Ryan, you're very special. My mom never comes into Tuesday chat, so Mom, we were talking about the Rougarou. You missed it. He taught me how to say
actually, I want to comment on that, actually, Gemma. You know, funny enough, Rougarou, the word itself, came about because the Blackfoot Indians couldn't pronounce Loup-garou correctly. So when they said Loup-garou, it came out as Rougarou. So your mom's in good company.
So, Mom, it's not just you.
Yeah, Mom, you're good to go. You're golden. Don't worry. Everybody else had a hard time with it too.
So Smoochy says Louisiana Rougarou, and I'm telling you that these woods are haunted. It's an episode my mom and I watch all the time. The guy that tells the story, the witness, his name is Roy, and we talk about him like he's our friend, because he was just hilarious. He was like our people. You could tell this dude was scared. Nice. But he said that they told him it was a Loup-garou, which is, I thought like, oh, okay, so they say it funny in Louisiana, but actually that's the original way to say it. The Rougarou came from them not being able to properly pronounce it. Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah. And you know,
Rougarou is just a French term. So
okay. So that makes sense, Louisiana, with the background there, that it would be a French term. Cool.
You know, I'm really surprised that you haven't seen like your pale crawler in your area. You know, you do have caverns and waterways, underground waterways, where they like to hang out, right?
Yeah. Well, they are the pale crawler. I was only in the dark though for maybe 10 minutes before the whole channeling thing happened. And I do remember, I'll just say this quickly because I do want Ryan to be able to just, free talk for a little bit. I was out there going on a hike with my little guy about less than a year ago, and it was the daytime. It was nice. We were following the trails, and we were trying to follow like the blue trails, because there's blue, red, and then red and blue. So I'm directionally challenged. I don't know like half the time where I'm going. I can't even read a map. So we're walking up the trail, and I remember turning, and I said, like, it just felt wrong this one way, that I was like, let's not go that way. Let's go a different way. I felt eyes on me. I felt the quietness, being watched for sure, possibly being stalked. I swear to you, and no one believes me, when we came back the same way, there was a sign that said, warning, do not enter. That was not there before. That was on the tree that we were standing right at when I said, and my son said, I don't want to go that way. And I was like, you know what, buddy? Me neither. Let's go the other way. When we came back the same way, there was a sign there. So I don't know if like we accidentally, like we're about to walk. I'm just glad we didn't. And I believe I don't go outside in my yard at night unless I absolutely have to, not only because of bears, but because I'm fearful from what I talk about on this channel. And the pale crawler is something I've discussed at length. I mean, that fairy tale house that Snow White lived in the middle of the woods, there's nothing but woods. that's my house. Like, so, I mean,
nice.
any way that I go out, I'm in the middle of the woods, and I love it. I love it. It's beautiful. It's cool. It's quiet. But
Lucky.
being
you have bear show up
supernatural,
on your front porch.
being supernatural as I am, it's a lot to keep out. And I do have to do protections on the land every 6 months, and I have to, you know, my husband doesn't believe, he hates it, so I just do it when he's not home and don't tell him. But it does keep things at bay. I even have a brook that runs through my backyard, and I've noticed things will not pass there. They won't cross the water. They'll stand on the other side of it. Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, talking to like the Navajo people, there's such magic and energy in water. It's people don't understand it sometimes. You know, it's like you got to talk to these people and really understand the magic that comes from the earth itself. There's so much to it that we'll never understand at all.
Oh, never.
We
were meant to understand.
I was told once to the one thing that I could stop doing is buying crystals, and I was like, well, I collect crystals. And I don't remember the entity. I talked about it on a live right after it happened, but this entity told me to stop collecting crystals because it's messing with the vibrations in the ground and the earth. People, you know, taking them out, that it's been so much now, and they become such a thing, you know, a trend, I guess, that is really affecting the earth balance, because crystals would be an earth, you know,
along with other things that they're taking from the earth.
Yeah. But
we're taking way too much.
Yeah, for sure. And she was talking to me specifically about the crystals. And I remember just being like brokenhearted because I was like, well, I love crystals. But it made sense when I mentioned it, like even to the chat, they were like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. I believe like I've been watching the Pyramid Code. I watched Disclosure. It's on Unified, UNIFYD, and they do like a 3-day free trial. There's a guy named Ray who works for the light system. It's all stuff I'm going to talk about on my channel eventually. But all of this stuff is involved with it, you know, the creatures and where they all came from, where we came from and stuff. So I want to give you some time to just talk about whatever you want in the capacity of whatever you want. Just free format.
Ghost has more questions. Go ahead, Ghost. You got more questions. I know you do. I can see him just floating around his head.
Turning around in there.
Oh, it's always going now. I'm nonstop 24 hours. A little more organized than some people, but I'm always turning.
You know what, though? Before I forget, Gemma, something you might want to look into. There's actually a case of the Wendigo in 1858, the case of Swift Runner.
Oh, yeah.
That's something that you might really...
Can you
So I'll tell you the story of what he was, what happened to him. Yeah, it's SWIFT RUNNER.
Oh,
but I'll tell you his story. Yeah,
go ahead.
I'll tell you his story, so you know maybe you can decide if you want to look into it or not. But Swift Runner was a Cree fur trader, okay? And depending on what story you hear, some people say he was very, very polite, that he was a very family-involved man. Some stories say he was a little bit violent when he got alcohol into him, but you know, who doesn't get that way? Most people do. Anyway, what happened, one winter, he was taking his family along the usual hunting path where he would stay in the cabin. He was gone for about 3 weeks, which was pretty normal for him. He came back to Fort Saskatchewan, and he started telling people in a tavern how he and his family were starving, how he had to resort to drastic measures to stay alive. But what they noted, he didn't look any skinnier. He wasn't any leaner. He, in fact, looked like he had gained weight. So we were starting to get curious about this. And as he started to drink more and more, he became loose-lipped and started telling people, well, I had to kill my family to stay alive. And when they asked him, why would you kill your family? He told them, the Wendigo. I am the Wendigo. So, of course, they arrested him. And after they arrested him, he led them back to his hunting camp. And when they got to his hunting camp, they found human fat smeared on the walls, on the trees. They found skins from his family. And they actually found the bones. They found the skulls. He had cracked open the skulls to get to the brains. He had cracked open the femurs and sucked out the marrow. And he was so nonchalant about it that when the magistrates were right there, he walked on over to the skulls. He put his 2 fingers into the eye sockets and waggled them. He's like, this was my wife. And he threw it aside, picked up another one. He's like, this was my son. Threw that one aside. And he told them, I ate them because I am the Wendigo. So eventually they did.
Go ahead.
You probably heard
they did execute him. He was historically, he was the first execution. Yeah, he was the first execution in Fort Saskatchewan.
I'm definitely gonna look that up. It reminds me of a story that I heard about a Wendigo hunter, and he was a Wendigo hunter, same area, but he was also Wendigo. Did you ever hear of that?
I can go into that if you want.
Please, I love
that's
that
Jack
story.
Fiddler.
Are you talking about the guy on the bus? Is that the one on the bus? The gentleman that was on the bus?
No, this was the Wendigo hunter, Jack Fiddler. All right. Jack Fiddler, what's cool is his father and his grandfather before him were Wendigo hunters. Jack Fiddler allegedly killed 14 Wendigo by himself. And he kept doing this. Like he would, whenever there was a supposed Wendigo problem, they would call him and he would come in and he would perform ceremonies and destroy the Wendigo. Eventually he was tried for murder, but it's because the European settlers didn't believe in Wendigo.
Right.
I watched a show, Roger Blair says, seems like there was a TV program where they mentioned that. I said, yeah, I don't remember which program, but my mom and I watched it. And I just thought it was so interesting for me, who's like not totally really interested. I just came into my research and interest in cryptids when that happened with the Bigfoot behind my house. Then I was like, okay, there's something to this. Because before that, it wasn't even like on my radar. Like with everything else going on, I was like, Bigfoot, great. I didn't realize 4 years ago that there were so many others. I didn't realize there were Wendigo and, I didn't know, and now that I do, it's fascinating.
The stories of
it's a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Well,
I'm going to look into Swift Runner and Jack Fiddler and probably do a nice video on them too, because people
that's
seem
just
very
like the story of the guy on the bus in Canada. Remember that story where he tried to pull a bunch of people and he said he was a Wendigo too.
Yeah.
And
well, he did kill the
that. I don't remember him saying that. I covered that
in the actual, I believe in the actual interview, he states that he was becoming a Wendigo.
Yeah.
So I have a question from the chat. I guess it would just be your opinion. Someone said, question, opinions on the eclipse and cryptids during it. I don't know that would affect them. I guess we're thinking like full moon, werewolf, which I don't believe the werewolf transforms at the full moon. I just think he becomes like beastier as the moon gets fuller, like the slow progression. Right. Do you have any ideas? I mean, I'm staying indoors anyway, so it doesn't matter to me.
I don't think cryptids are going to be affected, but things like skinwalkers, because eclipses are very magical things. Those are very important things.
Yeah, I know that from the witchery, as I call it.
And actually, this eclipse is actually taking place doing Samhain. Am I saying that right? One of the
no, Samhain is Halloween, but it is taking place at a very special time. And there's also other astrological things going on, which I'm going to talk to you guys about in shorts if I have the time. But like I said, I stay indoors too. So it doesn't like occur to me to ask things like that because I'm not going to have my butt outside anyway. So
I'm not either. I'm staying inside. I'm going to be inside with my dog all night, man. I'll be like, enjoy it. Have fun.
Well, it's fun because I'll be able to stay inside. My back window faces the sun all the way across and the moon all the way across. So I'll be able to stay inside, stick my telescope right out my window.
That's funny because I have the same type of window that faces right where the sun and moon normally are. I didn't even think of that. I could probably still see it if it's going to be visible where I live. Sure.
Just make sure. I'll send you some glasses so you can watch it because you really need the glasses or something.
Yeah, I think my little guy would really enjoy that. That would be so cool. All right, guys, we got 13 minutes left. So Ryan, I really want to make sure, Ryan, that if there's anything, like I want to give you some time. Like, what do you want people to know? What's like the most important point you want to get across? Do you want to tell another story? It's all you. Go ahead.
Well, I think, what people need to start doing, and I've noticed, I talk about this with Ghost, we need to start respecting the Native American lore. People just take anything and they twist it into whatever they want. And I think we really need to stop doing that. As a community, we have to start deep diving all that stuff and actually talk to the people. And, don't label everything as a Bigfoot. Don't label everything as a dog man. Don't think that everything you see is a Wendigo or a skinwalker. Know the lore behind it and just stop being really disrespectful to all these people, man. It's not right, So that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do.
I agree. Because I know that I get a little offended. Even just like I saw a meme that was like, you inherit this house. Do you A, sell it, or B, move in and become the neighborhood witch? And I was like, that's offensive. Like, you know, like I didn't really get angry about it. But if I were one of those people, I would be offended by that. One of those types of people that very easily offended. But I do feel like we've kind of pooped on, we as a community and just as a society have kind of pooped on the Native American legends and lores and kind of turned it into our own special type of clickbait. And that's one of the reasons I really don't get into these topics too much on my channel, is because I would feel bad not deep diving, and then I wouldn't have the time to deep dive. So what would I do? And that's kind of why I'll mention it if it comes up. I have covered skinwalkers and tried my best to get the legends right. But at the end of the day, I still don't have a proper understanding. And that's because I never had the opportunity to actually speak to the people. I feel like it's just become very clickbaity.
That's like me. That's like me. As much research as I've done, I think Ryan knows this. I'm more of that biblical guy. So I look at a lot of things through the biblical sense, as you saw the other night in your interview. What amazes me is how everything is connected. But what also made me a little ashamed of myself, of all the research I've done in my life, other than the Adena and the Hopewell, I'm still learning about tribes I never even knew existed.
But you're learning.
I know.
But I feel bad because I'm just, out of all these years, I mean, you got to figure, I've been head deep in a lot of this stuff since I was 12, 13, 14 years old. And to not touch upon, because I am surrounded by mounds. So that's what always intrigued me, because I had been to those mounds at night. I'd gotten into parks, the Hopewell and Adena mounds after hours, and seen some amazing things with my own eyes at night. And that's always appealed to me. But I never took the time to learn more about the Native Americans from, Canada all the way down.
Ryan, I wanted to ask you.
Go ahead.
How long have you been in this so far? Like since that experience that you had until now, how long have you been doing this?
Well, in general, in total, it's been 20 plus years.
Wow.
So, and encountering that dog man was just kind of like lighting that fire under my butt, where I had to learn new stuff. I think I needed that.
You were like drawn to it. Do you think there's a reason you were like drawn to it? I know with certain things, I know like I'm drawn to them for a reason. I'm compelled by this force. I need to do it for that reason. Do you have anything like that? Or do you just feel like you just happened by this thing and it changed your life?
Oh, no, I think I was definitely meant to do it, especially with the Native American stuff that I do now, because I think that I was meant to really kind of bridge that and show people, look, you're misinterpreting this and we need to do this the right way. And, that's why I deep dive it so much. I don't just look at a book. I'll look at a book. I'll talk to William Nighthawk. He's been such a huge help in my journey, man. I love that guy. It's like my brother. And I'll talk to all these other people because I want to know their beliefs, their traditions, and I want to pass them down because that's what they want you to do. They want you to pass down their
write anything. As an author, I know anybody can write anything and say this is true. And I specifically said that recently with my book about the BEK. I was like, this book is really special. It took me a really long time, but it's because I didn't take any old encounter I found on YouTube or Reddit. I took encounters from people that I can talk to, sit with them. I want to see the look in their eye when they're telling the story. I want to feel their vibe. I want to make sure that the information I'm presenting is true, because I was getting PO'd about the fact that people were making this into something completely different and saying the white-eyed kids and the black-eyed kids are the same. And I know how frustrating that can be for someone who's dedicated their life to certain research, and you're seeing these random people just not only be very disrespectful with it, use it for clickbait, and really not know what they're talking about. So now the next person is going to use that as source material without deep diving because they trust that person, and then on and on down the line. And my mom said it makes me so angry how the Native Americans still get no respect. And Mom, you're so right. And I was saying he, meaning Ryan, is specifically talking not only about everyone, but I think this community that we're all in here. those of us, it's like, it kind of is like those of us who really are trying to get the information across, and then those of us who are just trying to take the easy way because we're trying to get as many views as possible and make the story. You know, I always say, like, guys, I can't put a creep factor on this, but take it for what it's worth. And here's the story. Because I think that even if it's not scary, even if it doesn't have that, you know, creep factor, I feel like it should still be talked about. It should still be covered, because you never know what you're going to run into. I learned with the BEK, like, you never know what's going to be knocking on your door. And as far as spiritual things, you guys have no idea what's lurking under your bed. And it's, you know, it's important, even as people who watch, and if you don't have a channel, you're not in the community except for in the chat, it's still kind of your responsibility as well as ours to make sure that we're getting the right information out there, because it is important, you know. Gojira guy, is that Gojira? Gojira?
Gojira. That's Godzilla.
Godzilla.
No, I have no idea. That's one thing I'm not into.
Chris knows.
I do want to touch on one thing before we close out, and that is
absolutely.
You know, because in my thumbnail posts of her stuff, I mentioned Squatch. Now, your view on this is awesome, so I want to hear your view, so Gemma hears it too. Your view on Squatch and aliens and other dimensions.
Okay, well, I mean, I often get asked, what do I think are Bigfoot flesh and blood, right? Or are they interdimensional? I think they're both, okay? I think that when they come over here, that's when they take on that solid form. That's when they're flesh and blood. That's when they leave the footprints, the scat, the fur. That's when they kill a deer or whatever. But then that's why we can't find them, because they go back to where they came from. And so they're not really from here. Is there an alien connection? Probably. I mean, if they're from a different dimension, by definition, it's alien, right? So it's also by definition
from the sixth dimension. Yeah, that's what I was told by the one I channeled. They're from the sixth and seventh dimension, and they come here because they like the density. That's
right. So by definition, they'd also be spiritual too, because, you know, anything that can go from energy to solid would be spiritual as well.
And if I channeled I think that they're spiritual.
Right. So I think they're a little bit of both. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer here. I think that everything is a right answer in a very big way. So
I've never had anyone that I feel the exact same way, and I've said it so many times, and I've never had anyone really kind of understand what I was trying to say. Where, like, of course, when you're in the third dimension, to be here as prominently as they are, yeah, they're going to have to turn in some way, but other entities can come here and remain in their form. From what I understood, the Bigfoot said that they like the density here. They like to bring their children here, and they like to roam the land, but that they're never going to allow themselves to be caught, seen, or found, like their bones and stuff, because number one, they really don't die. They kind of just move into the next life right there. And would you bring your kids around someone that wanted to shoot them on sight? Like, no. Absolutely not. That's basically what they told me. Like, we're never going to allow that to happen. But they did say they were from the sixth and seventh dimension. And that it's just
was almost like it was like a conversation with the Quiche Sabe. That's what that was like.
She doesn't know that one.
I don't know what that is. I don't know that one.
This is actually a good way to end the show, too.
Yeah, well, Quiche Sabe, this is something that I think a lot of Bigfoot enthusiasts skip over, okay? Because the Quiche Sabe, it comes from the 7 grandfather teachings, all right? And in the 7 grandfather teachings, every lesson is represented by an animal. For example, respect is shown by a bear, okay? Which is, you know, it's normal enough, right?
Makes sense.
You get to honesty, though. The honesty, the animal totem, is the Quiche Sabe. Bigfoot. Bigfoot teaches the human beings how to be honest, how to be good with other people, how not to lie, say what you mean what you say. If you can't speak the truth, you can't be trusted, which I think is really ironic, because look at the number of Bigfoot hoaxes in the Bigfoot community, okay?
Yeah.
Quiche Sabe.
Oh my gosh.
Quiche Sabe is Bigfoot. So
wow. That's crazy, because the one that I channeled, I was really broken down. I was crying. I was geocaching, and I'd been out for 8 hours because I'd gotten lost, because, again, directionless, trying to walk as the crow flies and follow a map I couldn't read. And then the sun went down. It started raining. My phone died. And I had gotten directions from the one lone hiker, and the guy had sent me the wrong way. And I remember thinking, like, he sent me the wrong way on purpose. I had walked like 2 miles out of my way. And then that's when I sat on the log. And that's when the female voice, and I didn't see the creature except in my mind's eye, it kind of projected itself to me. The voice was very, what we would call female sounding, but I think it's different for them with like male and female. It's like a little different.
Yeah.
But that makes sense because I was lied to right then and there and got further lost because the idiot didn't just say, I don't know, I'm not sure. He said, oh yeah, that's just a little bit down that way. But Ryan, I want to thank you so much for coming on. You are always welcome to come on anytime you want. This was really fun. Just reach out to myself or Ghosts. And if you have anything else you want to say before we end.
Actually, yeah. It's funny that you were mentioning your little experience there because have you ever read about the hero chief and his encounter with Sabe?
No.
Okay, well, in the book, you can actually find it online. The Bigfoot tells him how the Bigfoot will never be seen amongst our people, that they won't be in abundance. So Bigfoot's telling him, we're not going to be in large number. You're not going to see us in a large population, and we're not going to come out amongst you. You'll see us if we want you to see us. So there's something to be found there. I'll send you that book so you can actually read it online. You're going to really like it.
That's exactly what I was told. And I've never read that. And I've been saying that for, the 3 years since it happened, that was the message they wanted me to portray for the help that they gave me. Tell them this, would you bring your young if they were going to be shot on site?
Look into indigenous lore. They
hate how violent we are.
Such wisdom.
Yeah, I would definitely love that. I'll give you my address.
Yes, make sure.
All right. Yeah, I mean,
if you pop in chat later or when you at the end of the stream in comments, leave a link, Ryan, for anything that's coming up or your channel.
Okay.
Because a lot of people know us as Let the Monsters In. That's how he appears in chat. So
that's right. Yeah.
So
thank you so much. And we can have a little more conversation if you want to come on Wednesday nights too. Because I would love to have Gemma do more of this. I would love to have you back on here too. Because you're a man with a lot to say. And
I feel like an hour just wasn't enough.
Yeah, and I'm looking at a couple. I'm talking to a couple other people too about coming in with me and Gemma.
Okay.
That are. I want to kind of touch on certain fields. I'd like the way she acted today. Her eyes just lit up and she glowed, and she needed this. So,
well, did you learn something new today? Did anybody learn anything new?
I learned
a lot.
Many new things, and I've got stuff I'm going to look up too. So.
My mission is accomplished.
That's what I want. It's really
my mission's accomplished.
Yes, and anytime you just reach out, like, hey, I'm not doing anything Tuesday. You can come on as much as you want. This was really great, and I do feel like an hour wasn't enough. I have so many other questions, and I'd love to do this again. So I'm going to end it here because I do have to do some things for my little guy gets off the bus. But Ryan, I will reach out. I think I'll have your number. If not, I'll hit you up in Facebook Messenger, and I'll give you my address. And thank you. I can't thank you enough for coming on. You're awesome.
Thank you, everybody.
It's my pleasure.
Bye-bye, guys. Have a good week.
Have a great day, everybody.
Much love.